What's happening, people? Back with another reaction, back with another soundtrack reaction, and we're going back to the score from the 1992 movie Orlando, composed by David Motion and Sally Potter. Thank you again to Sofia for bringing the film to my attention and providing the soundtrack. And we're going to listen to A Change of Sex, which, as I think I mentioned in both, technically it'd be three, but I think only two reactions after I had seen the movie. As I mentioned in those reactions, about halfway through the film, the character Orlando, who in earlier centuries was a male, becomes female, and there's no real explanation beyond it's the same character, only a woman. And in that regard, I think Tilda Swinton is a good choice for casting, not only because I think she's a very good actress, but also because she has a bit of an androgynous look, and I suppose it depends in some cases on her hair and so on, meaning I've seen her with a pixie cut, and I think that androgynous look is even more pronounced in roles where she has that look. But indeed, part of the process of transition in the film, I forget what country, I think she's in like a Middle Eastern country, and she goes into, her chambers, I think it's like, again, part of a caravan or something like that, and she begins looking, or as he, but becoming she, looks in a mirror, and it's clear she now has a woman's body, and this track plays, and then as it tightens in on her face, I think reflected in the mirror, she says something to the effect of, "Orlando, the same person, now a woman, or only a woman," something to that effect. So the movie, again, sort of breaks the fourth wall, which I understand goes back to the Virginia Woolf novel, and that she occasionally just has asides where she, sort of brings the reader up to speed on what is happening, and that seemingly is how the film captures that narrative device. So yeah, it's obviously a pivotal moment in the movie, and I think the soundtrack here, or the piece for this moment, is well chosen, because there's a simple but also a bit mystical austerity to the track. So let's give it a listen. This is from David Motion and Sally Potter, the tune A Change of Sex from Orlando, 1992. Simple yet powerful, and I remembered a bit of those. Not sure what that was. Maybe it's the beginning of the next track, and they're not quite linked in terms of being a mix, but there is a flow from one track to the other rather than a hard stop. Either way, yes, I remembered some of those mystical sonics. I didn't remember it was so vocal based going into this. So yes, obviously those somewhat breathy, like emotional vocals are not really lyrics per se or words, but yeah, they perhaps suggest the human quality of the moment, which again is supernatural. There's, as I said, no explanation given other than just the character has become a woman. And again, we're already talking about a character that has lived far longer than even the most long-lived humans. So yeah, there's just a supernatural quality to Orlando, and at this point, he becomes she, and that propels the final half of the movie. So yeah, I think it's very well composed for the moment in question, and I like the way it's shot. Again, it's like just a very simple, intimate moment, and again, you suddenly see her in a female body, and so like if you didn't know better, and again, when I saw the movie, at first it was unclear to me, like, is she a woman pretending to be a man? Which I can tell you, as a historian, there were many cases where women, because they wanted to occupy certain social roles or cultural roles that were denied to women historically, they would pass as a man, whether by cutting their hair short or wearing clothes that were typically associated with men. So at first I was a bit unsure about that, and then it became clear that no, like she is a woman. She, being Tilda Swinton, is playing a man in the first half of the movie, and then she becomes a woman, the character, in the second half of it. So I like the way the scene and transition is handled narratively as well. So again, it's a really interesting soundtrack, a movie unlike many others I've seen, but very compelling and with a bit of historical interest as someone, again, who studied history, if not necessarily like 16th and 17th century English history, but either way, I find it very compelling. This piece fits the moment. Let me know what you think, and I will see you for the next one. Peace.